In this video, Mark Tilbury is going to teach us how we can retire in 7 years only, starting with $0. So I'm very curious, what is he going to say? Invest in a 401k, invest in the stock market, start your own online business, work for a big corporation and save up as much money as you can? You know what? No more guessing and let's find out.
I believe the biggest reason most people don't achieve early retirement is that they were never given a step-by-step guide.
That might be true, honestly. The reason why most people are not multimillionaires, it's obviously because nobody at some point in their life came and just gave them a step-by-step manual which is 100% guaranteed to work. All jokes aside, I highly believe that if you want to reach an objective, whatever it may be, whether it be a fitness-related goal or a business-related goal, even a relationship-related goal, in my opinion, you need to follow a step-by-step process. Now, how do you come up with that step-by-step process? You follow that process by somebody who has done it before, who has achieved that same transformation. Everything that I've learned today about fitness, about building muscle, about lifting weights, I've learned it from people who were bigger, who lifted more weight, and who knew what they were doing. That's how I learned. I didn't go and take my fitness advice from somebody who was obese, because it would make absolutely no sense. And the same concept applies to business. The same concept applies to relationships. You're not going to ask somebody with social anxiety how to find the love of your life, because probably they have no idea. And the same concept is true in business. If your parents or your local banker, they don't have the level of financial freedom and of financial abundance that you want to obtain for yourself, you obviously cannot take their advice. If I hadn't learned from multi-millionaires, from six-figure earners, from successful business people, I would have not been able to start my own online business a couple years ago and to build this kind of life for myself. Because honestly, when I got started, I didn't know what I didn't know. And probably it's the case for you right now. And by this, what I mean is that when you're just getting started in any industry, whether it be, like I said, business, fitness, relationships, you have a lot to learn. And most people, unfortunately, they get out of university, they think that the learning curve is over. They don't need to learn anymore. But let me tell you one thing that could not be further from the truth. That's also what we call the Dunning-Kruger effect. It means that when people start to learn about a specific topic, because they don't know anything, everything is new. So they learn every time they look at something, like every time they read a book, every time they watch a YouTube video, they learn something. It's kind of like when you're new to lifting weights. You just pick up some dumbbell, do some stupid stuff with it, and you are going to build some muscle, even if you're not doing things the most optimal way. And the only reason it's possible is because your body is entirely new to the stimuli you're providing to it. And the same concept is true in learning. But then the more you learn about a specific subject, the more you realize there are many subtleties that you didn't even know existed, because there's such a thing as the fundamentals, the basics. But then if you really want to go deep on a subject, you will learn so much more and you realize, wow, there is so much we don't know. Honestly, in my opinion, if you wanted to be an expert, like for real at something, you would need thousands of lifetimes to learn everything that there is to learn on a specific topic. And even then, because things move, they evolve, they're not stagnant, they change over time, I'm not sure that thousands of lifetimes would even be enough.
The only path that seems to be pushed in schools is to get a 9-to-5 job, save your money, work until you're 65 and finally retire when you're too old to enjoy it.
That is the cookie cutter path that has been pushed onto every single one of us. Like I remember growing up, in school they never even mentioned the fact that somebody in the classroom could start up a business. No, in their mind, we would all be employees, and there's nothing wrong with being an employee. However, what I didn't like, it's the fact that they essentially told us that's the only path. And that is not true, that's not accurate. They always said, oh, you know, when you're going to send your resume, or when you're going to apply for that company, for that job, when you're going to have a job interview, but they never said, hey, you know what, if maybe one day you decide to start your own business, because in their paradigm, it's like it's impossible. It's like you're born with it or without it. But in the real world, things are very different. And just to give you another example of how school does not teach us about money and about the real world, I don't know about you, but in middle school, high school, and even the people that I know who go to university, they have never been taught about taxes. So literally most people, they start to work, they don't even know how to file their own taxes, because school didn't teach it to us. Now let me ask you a question. Wouldn't you say that it's easier to scam somebody the less they know about a specific subject? The answer is quite obvious, because the less you know about a specific subject, the easier it is going to force you to do something that is actually quite stupid and that won't benefit you. So the easier it is to get scammed, the less you know. Because if you don't know much, well, you don't know what is true, you don't know what is not true. So you'll fall for literally anything. So now the next time you think about the fact that they don't teach you about taxes in school, really think about this. And I mean, there's so many things that are wrongful and that school teaches us. For instance, they tell us you have to be there at this hour and you cannot leave until this hour. So they are essentially preparing you to get a 9-to-5 or whatever the schedule is, but to get a regular job and to be paid per hour. But rich people, they're not paid per hour. Jeff Bezos is not paid per hour of his time. He's paid based on the value that he provides. And typically typically with a business you can either provide a lot of value to a few people, think Ferrari, or you can provide some value to a big group of people, think about Amazon or Netflix. And that is why they're so successful. It's because they give people what they want. It's not because they work X hours a day on their business or whatever. But school instills this mindset in us that we need to trade our time for money. And to some degree that is true. Because even if you're like Jeff Bezos, you're a billionaire, you obviously had to work. I mean, it's not possible to do no work and to get massively rich, obviously. Because even if you invest in the stock market, you have a passive investment strategy, it could take you a couple hours a month to review your investments portfolio. However, compared to having a traditional job and not even having enough money to enjoy life when you retire, the difference is night and day. One is asking you to give up your dreams and your life, your freedom, while the other is going to take a lot of work at first. Because obviously, to start your business or to be able to afford to invest a lot in the stock market, you'll need to make more money. And that is going to require some hard work, some sacrifice, and some perseverance. But at the end of the day, you can choose to be like most people, to complain, to blame things which are external, to justify why you do not have as much money as you want, or you can simply take responsibility and put in the work. Because at the end of the day, when you complain to somebody, they don't really care. I mean, just think about it. When somebody comes and complains to you, how much do you care about what they're saying? Most of the time, you don't really give a F. Am I wrong? So the same is true when you are complaining to others, because at the end of the day, you need to realize that no one is coming to save you. And I mean, I get you if you're having a hard time taking responsibility and taking action. Because not too long ago, I was stuck in this mindset of, oh, I just have bad luck, life hates me. But in reality, I just wasn't working hard enough. Now, on a side note, hard work on its own, it is not going to make you rich or successful by any means. Because believe me, there's plenty of people from all over the world, they work insanely hard. Just think about your own parents if you are from a middle class or low income family. They probably worked really hard. And yet, are they millionaires? No. Do they have a great life? Honestly, for most of them, it's not the case. There's plenty of people, and I've known those people myself, getting up at 5 or even before sometimes, and going to work at the factory for 12 hours straight. So those people, would you say that they don't make much money because they don't work hard? The people who say that are complete clowns. These people, they work insanely hard. So making more money, it's not always about hard work. Do you seriously think that a millionaire or a billionaire is working a million more hours or a billion more times harder than you? Obviously not, it's not possible. The only difference between why they make so much money and you don't, it is because they have a lot of leverage and you don't. So if by now you've watched a lot of my other videos, you'll know what the 3 forms of leverage are. So pause this video and go write them down in the comments. We'll see if you've got the answers right. The first way to obtain leverage is to leverage the skills or the time of somebody else, typically hiring employees, delegating the work to freelancers and contractors. Then the other way to use leverage is to leverage other people's capital. So for instance, if you wanted to open up a business, a restaurant, you wanted to invest in real estate, you would go and take out a loan. Or what startup founders do is that they raise money from investors. That is how they leverage other people's capital to start their big company, their big idea. And then you can leverage artificial intelligence, automations, systems, and even making YouTube videos, creating content. It is a form of leverage. Because if I were to send 1,000, 10,000 messages to people, to potential customers, that could technically speaking be possible. However, from a logistics point of view, it would be difficult to put that in place. I'm sure you can see why. But now if I make a video, it might take me, let's say, an hour to make or around 30 minutes to record, and that video could reach 10,000 people. Hell, it could even go viral and reach 1 million people. Now in comparison, imagine having to reach out individually to 1 million people. Imagine having to knock on 1 million doors. So bottom line, leverage is the reason why some people are way richer than you are. It's not because they work harder. So when people say, especially your teachers, your parents, you need to work harder, you need to work longer, that might be true, but at some point you're going to hit a ceiling pretty quickly, because you cannot spend every waking hour working yourself to death. And even if you could, that would be a meaningless life in my opinion. My goal personally is to have my money work for me, my business work for me, not the other way around. I do not want to be the slave of my business or of my money. And then something else which school says that it is wrong, they say that if somebody else helps you, that's cheating, that's bad, and you're punished for it. However, in the real world, cheaters win. To give you an example, if you have a business, you hire an accountant, somebody who's going to take care of your taxes for you, your bookkeeping for you, because you as the CEO, you might not have the expertise on how to do that. And it's encouraged that you do so, that you hire somebody. So it's somebody essentially doing your homework for you, so to speak. And yet, you are heavily rewarded for it. And in fact, if you don't do it, you're quote-unquote punished. But school is essentially putting in your head the idea that you cannot use leverage, that it's a bad idea. Now, if I'm being honest, the reason why school was built in the first place, it wasn't to provide education to the people. Because let's be honest, they're not saints, they don't give a F about that. It was to manufacture workers for the factories. It's that simple. They just disguised it as free education so that parents would want to send their kids to school in hopes to afford them a better life. But I mean, I'm telling you, growing up low income, I've seen many people, they've been so depressed all of the time. I mean,
luckily, one of the businessmen I looked up to explained it in a slightly different way. He said the word retirement should be replaced with the word freedom, because once you reach a tipping point when you have enough money to stop working, you have true freedom.
in my opinion, that's not even necessarily what freedom would be. Like when I was a child, I would see all those people, like I said, that grew up low income, and they would have to wake up early, like I saw even my own parents, work night shifts for 12 hours straight, and still not make that much money by the end of it, or have to get up early, go to work, then come back, be exhausted, have to take care of groceries, of kids, of responsibilities, and then, quite frankly, because at the end of the day, they're so exhausted, all they can do is just plop down on the couch and watch TV for a couple hours. And the worst part is that they do it for 20, 30, 40 years, and then one day, they die. And when they're on their deathbed, they wonder how come time went by so fast. And they're going to have so many regrets about not following their dreams and about not doing all of the things that they wanted to do. And so seeing all of that, I learned from other people's mistakes. Because you can learn what to do from somebody who is successful at what you want to do, but you can also learn from people who do not have the sort of life that you want to have. And the way that you learn from them is by looking at them and doing the opposite. I mean, to give you an example, if you look at somebody who overspends and you don't want to end up like them, just do the opposite and you'll be just fine. Or if you look at somebody who is obese, you look at what they do, their exercising habits, which for most of them they're not going to exercise, you look at how they eat and you'll see, okay, if I don't want to end up like that, I need to do the opposite. Because it's true that if you want to obtain an outcome that only 1% is ever going to have, you'll need to be willing to put in the sort of work that only 1% is willing to put in. That's how the game is played. And at the end of the day, life does not care about your excuses. Life doesn't care if you're tired, if you're emotionally in pain, life simply doesn't care. And most people, they don't care either. And that's why I often say that if you have people right now, you're at the bottom, you have nothing, and they support you, and then you succeed when you're at the top, they're still with you. Those people, they're insanely precious. So treasure them. But at the same time, like I said, growing up low income, I saw those people, they had no free time, no freedom, they made little money. But then I also saw people, they made a lot of money, but they were just as equally depressed and miserable. So I thought, okay, there's a problem, because money does not buy you freedom. Because there's people who had a lot, they were not free or happy, and people who had very little of it, and they were not happy nor free. So I asked myself, how do I become free? How do I break free of this system? And then I realized, you need to start your own online business. That's the only real way to become free, because you have control over how much money you're going to make. You can implement different strategies to grow your business, and you can experience exponential growth, because with a job that is impossible. It's not like your income is going to go 10x from one month to the other. Now, if you have some kind of commission-based job, it's a different story. But even then, you'll be quickly capped when it comes to how much money you can make in a given month or in a given year, because your main activity is still selling your time for money. So in my opinion, freedom is not achieved when you have so much money that you don't need to work ever again, but freedom is achieved when you love your life every day. When you make the amount of money that you want to make, it allows you to live this incredible life, whatever that looks like for you. For some people, it's simply going to be traveling the world. For others, they don't necessarily care about that, and it's going to be about just having enough money to be able to afford rent, electricity, food, going to dinner, spoiling the people that they love, and that's all they want. And for some people, they want the penthouse, the supercar. Like I said, we're all different. But in my opinion, freedom comes from the ability to being able to wake up every morning and you love your life. If you want to work 4 hours, you can. If you want to work 8, you can. Freedom comes from having the choice to do what you want, to pick the option that you want. So the thing is, if you don't have that much money, you cannot choose what you want. You will be forced to live somewhere that you don't want to be in, to spend your time with people that you don't really like, to work a job that you hate. So if you don't have any money, you have no freedom. But at the same time, you could be a CEO, CFO, or an executive working for a big corporation. You drive a nice car, you wear $2,000 suits, but you're working 80 to 90 hours a week. You have no time for your friends, for your family, for your hobbies, and so you suffer immeasurably because all you do is work. And even when you're on your vacation, you spend a lot of your time replying to work emails, and at the end of the day, you don't really get to unwind and to relax. So one day when I stumbled upon a YouTube video by a guy showing me how he was making money with his online business, that is the day that my life changed, because I realized I can have the money and the freedom.
Every day you can do exactly what you want, no questions asked. Maybe that's relaxing on a beach, sipping a pina colada, or building businesses that change the world like Elon Musk.
Honestly, let me tell you, if all you do is to just sip some drinks at the beach, very quickly you're going to start to hate your life. I mean, at least if you're like me. I'm sure some people, they would love this, but for me, I would completely hate it. Maybe for one day it would be nice, but even then, honestly, just after a couple hours, I would be sick and tired of it. Because what I personally like, where I find my fulfillment, it's from setting goals and seeing that day after day, I get closer to reaching those goals. If I don't see any progress whatsoever, if there is stagnation in any way, I just get depressed. Like it's in my veins. I need to see things progressing to be fulfilled. And the reason why I don't say happy and I say fulfilled instead is because in my opinion, if you ask most people, what is being happy? Honestly, nobody really knows, but most people, I think they would say something like, just you feel good, you love your life. But honestly, a lot of the time, things are going to be painful. You don't necessarily like your life. So technically, in an ideal state of happiness, you never feel pain, you never feel sad, you never feel misery. But come on, That's not real life. However, fulfillment, it is knowing that deeply in you what you're doing, it is meaningful and it is going to lead you to that end result. So this means that even if right now your current situation, it's not what you want, it's pretty bad, that's okay because it is going to change and you have that faith deep in you. So every day you get up, you roll up your sleeves, you put in the work and you know you are getting closer, and that is what brings you fulfillment. So that's the difference in my opinion between fulfillment and happiness. When you're fulfilled, you're not always happy, joyful, all excited. Sometimes you feel sad just like everybody else, but you still have this overall sense of well-being because you know you're making progress. You know, at some point I was reading some scientific studies and what I found is that people who were retired earlier, they actually became more depressed and they had a shorter life expectancy than people who were not retired. And now you may wonder, how come that's possible? I mean, if most people hate their jobs, if they retire, then surely their life is only going to get better. However, in reality, the fact that they stopped setting goals, they stopped working every day to achieve those goals, to get closer towards achieving them at least, it honestly made most people depressed. Like, it is scientifically proven, people die sooner when they quit their job, they retire, or they just do nothing all day. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Just like I've said, I personally need to feel some kind of fulfillment to see that I am making progress towards my goals. So in my opinion, if your dream life is to just make $1 million and then never work ever again, honestly, very quickly it's going to get boring and you will want to do some kind of work. I mean, just take a look at any billionaire. Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, Mark Zuckerberg. Why do these people keep working? They have all the money in the world. Are they not just dreaming of retirement? Obviously not, because you see, these people at some point, they're not working for the money. Let's say you make $10 million a year. I can guarantee that you can have whatever lifestyle you want. Because honestly, do you need to buy the $50 million mansion? Not necessarily. You could rent an incredible mansion for $20,000 a month and you would be just as happy. Having the $50 million mansion, it would not make you happier. So when you're a billionaire, you have long exceeded how much money you need to actually live and be happy. So at some point, it is no longer a game of making more money. Rather, it can be a game of obtaining more status, more power, or simply of achieving big things. And the reason why they keep working is because they either have a big goal that they work towards every day and it gives them fulfillment, or they simply just love what they do. So they work because they actually enjoy it. When you love what you do, you don't want to get retired. I personally hate the idea of retirement. Now, if you have a physical job, it's a different story entirely. You're not going to be able to do it for the rest of your life. And that isn't to say you shouldn't need breaks, because honestly, we all do. And with the hustle culture people, there's this idea of never resting, never taking breaks, which has been popularized. But honestly, it is completely wrong, because if you never take any breaks, you're never fully on. What I've personally noticed is that at some point, I did the test, when I'm always working, I'm never doing something else, I'm always just either doing fitness or working, I start to hate my life, because even if I love what I do, at some point, I want to do something else. That is why, in my opinion, you need some kind of balance. And starting my own online business, it has brought me more freedom, more abundance, and more fulfillment than the idea of retiring at some point. So retirement should not be the goal, in my opinion. The goal should be to build a life that you love. You wake up every morning, you feel so damn grateful to your younger self for having put in the work to be able to have this kind of life. And trust me, it would have never been possible to live this sort of life at 20 years old only if I didn't start my own online business a couple years back. Now, if you want to discover what's the best online business to start as a beginner, but you have no clue what to do, I have recorded a free video in which I'm going to analyze every popular online business model. Together we take a look at the pros, at the cons, and I'm also going to share with you the 3-step process that you can use to start getting your first customers today. If you're interested, the link is in the description below.